Hi guys, it's Red Ribbon Week. I hope you guys are so excited. This is like the Super Bowl for us that work in prevention, so we're completely jazzed about this. I hope you guys are too. So my name is Heather Helm and I am the Assistant Director for Serenity Impact Youth Prevention Program, and today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about tobacco safety. So we're going to start off pretty easy. I'm sure most of this is review, but what exactly is tobacco? So when you think of tobacco, you typically think of cigarettes, right? So where exactly does tobacco come from? Well, tobacco is actually a plant that is naturally grown, and once it's grown, it is dried and fermented and then placed into various tobacco products. The tricky thing about tobacco, though, is that it does contain nicotine, and nicotine is what makes cigarettes so addictive. Nicotine is so addictive that people that try to stop smoking often have difficulties doing so. This means that tobacco is a drug because it is something that you can get addicted to. So tobacco is not the only thing that is included in traditional cigarettes. As you can see from this picture, there are a lot of chemicals. In fact, there are over 70 chemicals that are added to cigarettes, and most of these are cancer causing. And who wants cancer? I sure don't. I hope y'all don't either. And that's not all. Once you actually light a cigarette, the smoke in the cigarette can actually contain over 7,000 chemicals that are released into the air. I don't know if you can tell what chemicals are up there, but you've got arsenic, which is poison. You've got methanol, which is rocket fuel, and you've got ammonia, and that's what cat urine smells like. So I've got one word. This is just nasty. It's awful. Yuck, right? So when you typically hear about smoking, you typically hear about getting black lungs and getting lung cancer, right? You hear about the lungs a lot. But what if I told you that there are lots of other body parts within your body that smoking can affect? Let's start with the heart. So your heart is responsible for pumping blood throughout your entire body and also help to move oxygen throughout your lungs and therefore the rest of your body. So when you choose to smoke, your heart has to try twice as hard to get that blood to pump, and this can cause heart stress, and it's not good for your heart. I don't like being stressed out. I know you guys don't like being stressed out. Why would you stress your heart out? It can also affect your brain. So as of right now, your brain is still developing and it's still growing. It's trying to get as strong as it can. Smoking can affect how your brain grows and how strong it can be. It can affect the way you think. It can affect the way you feel. It can affect how you behave. So if you want a strong brain and you want to be smart and not a dummy, maybe reconsider smoking a cigarette. It can also affect your mouth. So your teeth can fall out. You can get gum disease. You can get gum disease if you don't floss, but the fastest way to get gum disease is actually by smoking. You can get mouth sores. You can get mouth cancer. Just not fun things. And you can also lose your taste buds. So if you like the way things taste, maybe reconsider. All right, guys, now let's talk about vaping. So I'm sure most of you guys know what vaping is, but just as a small review, vaping is a form of smoking or a form of e-cigarettes that don't have the smoke and tar aspect that traditional cigarettes do. This being said, vape juices or vape pods still contain nicotine. Even if the juice or the pod claims that they don't contain nicotine, it still contains a lot of other unhealthy chemicals that can get into your body, just like traditional cigarettes can. This can cause a whole host of health problems, including damage to your heart and your heart muscles, your lung tissue, and this can also cause a stroke. A stroke is when your brain doesn't get enough oxygen and it can't work the way that it was intended to. So, in addition to all of this, the vape devices themselves have also been known to cause injury because they can be defective. Devices exploding is actually a common occurrence. So then poses the question that a lot of you may be asking, is vaping safer than smoking traditional cigarettes? Can I be honest with you? I don't think so. Inhaling chemicals of any sort is dangerous, period. And just because vapes don't have the tar and the smoke aspect that traditional cigarettes do, doesn't mean that they can't lead to a whole host of health issues like I mentioned earlier. So is it safer? Honestly, I don't think that it is. So there are health effects of vaping on the brain. So nicotine is readily absorbed through the bloodstream. And once that happens, this can actually stimulate the adrenal gland and the nervous system, which further increases your heart rate, your breathing, and your blood pressure. In addition to this, This also activates the reward center in your brain. The reward center of your brain releases a chemical called dopamine. This is the feel-good hormone, right? So when you eat something or you do something that feels really good and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to do that again. That is the reward center in your brain firing off, and that dopamine hit that is circulating now throughout your body. And this in turn can motivate the user of whatever substance that you choose to continue to go back to that substance because it feels that good. You want to go back and have another hit. So continued use of vaping in teens can also lead to nicotine addiction becoming a lot harder to stop because you're constantly stimulating your reward center. Here's another fun fact about your reward center and the dopamine. Your body is really, really good at giving you warning signs and also regulating this reward center. However, too much of a good thing can lead to bad choices. So if you are constantly firing off that reward center, eventually you're going to need more and more and more of that same substance to fire off that reward center, because eventually your body is going to basically be like, I tried to warn you about this and you're not listening to me. So all of your warning signs that you may feel within your body, they tend to kind of go away or they shut down because that reward center is overtaking those warning signs. This is why once you start something, it's very, very hard to stop, especially when it fires off that dopamine within your brain. As I mentioned earlier, your brain is still developing until you are at least 25. And even some scientists are saying that it's actually later on in life, but we'll say 25 for right now. So nicotine does affect your brain development in the attention, control, and learning centers, and also mood disorders and impulse control. That was the front part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex that I mentioned earlier. So, a couple statistics for you. So students that vape in the 9th grade were 3 times more likely to smoke tobacco products in the next year. Students that vape in the last month were 7 times more likely to smoke cigarettes a month later. I don't know about you, but those seem pretty high to me. So what happens when your friend says that you should smoke? So I'm sure you're probably thinking, Miss Heather, you're probably just going to tell us to say no. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to tell you. But what if I told you that I have several other strategies to try in case just saying no doesn't work? As I mentioned earlier, simply say no. Again, it sounds really simple, but sometimes all they really need to hear is you just saying no. Better idea. Think of an activity that's going to be so much more fun than you and your buddies just standing around smoking a cigarette. I guarantee you, 100% guarantee you, that you will find something better to do. Broken record. This is the one time that you can be annoying and not get in trouble for it. You just keep saying no over and over and over and over and over and over again. Legitimately be annoying because it may make them go away or make them stop. Try to ignore them as best they can, because sometimes all your friend or maybe someone that you know at school or maybe even an adult wants you to do, they want to see you react. If you ignore, that will completely throw them off their game. Make an excuse. Y'all, this is a great time to make your parents be the bad guy. You can put all the blame on your parents with this particular strategy. So you can say that your parents won't allow you to smoke, or you can say, oh my gosh, I won't be able to play my video games tonight or for the rest of my life if they catch me smoking. Make your parents a bad guy. Trust me, it works. Reverse the pressure. So if you have a friend that's pressuring you, you can say, well, if you were really my friend, you wouldn't be pressuring me. That all of a sudden puts the pressure on your friend, not on you, and then they are stuck with trying to come up with a decent response, right? Because they don't want to look foolish. State the facts. I've already given you several facts, so you can just state those. You can just say, well, smoking can cause cancer, because it can. Smoking is bad for your lungs, because it is. Smoking is bad for your heart and your mouth and your brain, because it is. So just state the facts. Maybe this person forgot, or maybe they want to ignore the facts. So by stating the facts, you could remind them or make it clear that what they're choosing to do or what they are pressuring you to choose to do is not a healthy choice. Steer clear. So try to avoid situations as best as possible where you might be tempted or you might be pressured to smoke a cigarette. And then you can simply walk away. And here's the deal. If your friend follows after you, then there's a whole list of strategies up here that you could try instead, even if they do choose to follow you. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me for this really quick lesson. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope that you guys will utilize these strategies if presented with a peer pressure situation. So have a wonderful week, and I'll see y'all soon.